Hello, everyone. It's Kat from the Men Need Love 2 podcast. I am here today with Kyle Miller. He's a coach, and we've had many beautiful conversations. And he works with people around narcissistic abuse and helps them rebuild their life afterwards. Hi, Kylie. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me on.
Thank
Yeah.
you. So we've had so many conversations, and I'm like, I wish we had hit record because we just
Yeah,
get into it.
yeah, yeah. Those are the best conversations.
They
And
are.
and then it's always looking back and thinking we should have recorded that.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. Why don't you tell us about what you do and how you came about working with people around narcissistic abuse?
Yeah. So I specialize in helping people heal from narcissistic abuse. And one of the things that I really say, because so many people talk about healing and doing the work and all of that, and I think there's so much focus on the healing part and the doing the work and all of that. And it really doesn't have anything actually to do with healing in a lot of ways because it's really about moving forward with your life, not feeling stuck, not sitting wondering why we have all these toxic relationships and we can't seem to find a healthy one or a good job that we like or, move our business forward. I mean, that's what it's all about. And healing is just, one of the steps along the way of, really having a life that we really love. And and so that's really what it is that I do. Is I'm actually I consider myself a personal empowerment coach, and so I want people to essentially get to the point where they can have everything in their life go sideways and blow up, and it's no big deal because they know what to do. They have the tools, they have the capacity, they have the awareness, the understanding to be able to work through anything that comes their way. I mean, obviously, I don't want anything to blow up in anybody's life, but if or when it does, that everything is simply okay. And really, I want them to not, I mean, certainly it's good to have help and support from people, a coach or friends or anyone else. But I think for so many of us, we don't necessarily feel capable of being able to handle it on our own. And that's what I want for everyone. And I don't want anybody to have to come back to me, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to go talk to Kyle again
Yeah.
because I don't know what to do here.
Yeah.
I want them to be to the place where, I mean, yeah, they can sure, schedule another session or do another
Mhm.
one and we can work through things and I'll help. But I want them to really know how to manage and handle all of those things in their lives. So, essentially working myself out of a job continually. Um,
And and I was smiling because I think that's one of the things we talked about is that for a business plan, you or me were not good because our business plan is like give them all the tools so
yeah,
they can walk away and they never need you again. And that's what I
yeah,
pride myself on. But it's not a
yeah,
good business plan.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a good and that's I talk with my I go to a homeopathic doctor that I see and he said, really what we are in the work of is ministry. It's actually very different than a traditional service-based business, I suppose, because what my mission is for people to be able to stand on their own and have everything that they need in themselves. And so yeah, I mean, if I was all of a sudden wealthy tomorrow, I would still be doing the same thing. Even though it is nice, I certainly like making the money and I would like to make more money continually, but this work is just it's hugely important. And I really what a lot of what got me into this um, is really striving to be the person that I wish I would have had when I went through all the struggles. And yeah, I never would have picked this. I mean, as far as how I got into coaching on this, I never would have in a million years, I would have never picked, oh, I'm going to be the narcissist guy. And that was kind of my initial thoughts when I was deciding if I was going to actually go into coaching on this is, oh, like, do I really want to be the narcissist guy? And but it was something that really found me, and the more work that I did, the more healing and everything else, I just I couldn't it came to a point where I couldn't not do this. This was, really, and I had so many synchronicities that happened, just this person shows up in my life and they need help with it, or they've gone through this and they need some help. And magically, I really helped them a lot just through even a conversation. And so that was so I kind of happened into this accidentally. I was planning on coaching, high performance athletes or entrepreneurs or something like that. And I'm kind of moving towards that a little bit more, but definitely with the specifics of people that are held back in their lives, because I think there's a lot of people, and many more than are perhaps aware, that they're kind of just stuck. Like they're not doing bad, everything's kind of okay. But they can't quite find that healthy relationship. They can't quite put the pieces together as far as why they're struggling. Or their business is struggling, or they're, struggling with getting a better job that they like more, or any of those things, which a lot of times it's those little bits of things that we haven't worked through and healed in order to really move forward with our life. And so it's not the major chaos that we had while we were in the relationship. It's this little dull thing in the background that we can't quite make enough sense of to let go of.
I really hear you on that. And I love what you say about healing and the fact that your focus is not to like pick apart the past and like talk about all the
Hmm.
bad things that happened, because that just gets you
Hmm.
stuck in that victimhood
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
Sometimes the questions that I ask are like, what is it about this person, like you or me or whoever, that
Hmm.
made you susceptible to being
Hmm.
with a narcissist? Like, what is it about me that allowed for this to happen? Like,
Hmm.
where am I not looking at red flags? Where am I
Hmm.
like not silencing myself? Where am I
Hmm.
picking someone else over me? And that's really the work. The work
Yeah.
is not to be the expert on narcissism like everyone wants
Hmm.
to be these days on social media. That's one of the
Yeah.
things we talked about.
Yeah.
I think there's actually very few people that are actually can be diagnosed with NPD. I think the rest of it is we're calling out narcissistic behaviors. We're calling out
Hmm.
toxic behaviors.
Hmm.
And there is probably not a lot of research because like true narcissists don't go to therapy. They don't go to be
Hmm.
studied. So all
Hmm.
that we have is their victims to kind of pull together this information about them and they
Hmm.
and their behaviors and their different types. So I
Yeah.
just want to talk about what narcissism is like to you in that sense. Like I just talked about, do
Hmm.
you have the same approach and like what it is not?
Yeah, I think the line that I draw, I guess, is that because there are so many different tendencies that we look at, that line up with ADHD, with insecure attachment, with codependency. I mean, there's a laundry list of all kinds of other diagnoses, and I don't necessarily love the diagnosis, but I think all of those different things are super helpful for understanding and awareness until they are no longer helpful at all whatsoever. And all of them across the board. That's, just my opinion. But but so when I think about whether someone could possibly be narcissistic or not, it's the narcissistic tendencies that we look at, so the gaslighting and the manipulation and abuse and all of those different things, and then a lack of accountability, empathy, and compassion for anyone else. And so when those are combined together, then I'm maybe possibly leaning towards possibly that person could be narcissistic. And but I still don't, because ultimately it doesn't matter. And I think
Exactly.
that's,
It doesn't
you
even matter.
know, and to double down on that even more, um, I think one of the reasons, I mean, we look for understanding. When we've gone through abusive relationships, we want the understanding, and then part of it is for, so if they're a narcissist, like actually a narcissist, then they can't change and they won't change and all of that, right?
Yes.
Which is true, and it's also to some degree not completely, because there are actively narcissists out there that are doing the work to not be abusive and all of those things to other people. And they're very few, very rare. But I know that there are some out there, and so it's very true in one sense. But the other side of this that we don't really want to talk about is that there's a large majority of people that have insecure attachment and codependency and all kinds of other things that they're not going to change either. They're
Mhm.
not willing to, or capable, or however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
Either way, the fact of the matter is they're not willing to do anything in order to change anything in their lives. And it's not, I mean, it sounds like a judgment, but I've observed and talked to enough
Mhm.
people that seems to be the case. And it doesn't mean that they're terrible, bad, awful people or
No,
anything like that.
they won't.
Um, but and we all, to some extent, we all have dysfunctional behaviors, whether or not we want to own those and look at those. But it's a lot of times the rare individuals that are willing to face their demons and work through it. So it ultimately doesn't matter if if you want somebody that is working towards healing, towards releasing their dysfunctional behaviors, healing those things. If you want that in your life, and the person that you're with is not doing that, or not willing to do that, or trying to push everything back on you, it doesn't matter if they are a narcissist or not. That is potentially, possibly a toxic relationship, or at least toxic to you. And so then, our work is for us to, do our own work, and then find someone who is in alignment with us and is willing to do the work to have a healthy relationship.
What you just said, like there's two things that I've never heard anyone say, and I've been of this opinion. But when you mentioned ADHD and like attachment disorders,
Hmm.
so
Yeah.
I think sometimes you know how they say that narcissists will always make everything about them and everything is like relating back to themselves.
Yeah.
Well, people that are neurodivergent and people that are
Hmm.
ADHD also
Hmm.
do that because they
Yeah.
cannot, they have a hard time understanding other people's situations and having
Yep.
empathy. So
Yep.
the biggest way they try to connect is they try to relate everything to themselves first. Then they feel like
Hmm.
they can understand because they know how they
Hmm.
felt, then they feel like they can extend
Hmm.
compassion or understanding. So when you're
Hmm.
looking at all these narcissistic traits, you're the first person that has made this divide that said, like, yes, some narcissists have this, but also people who are not have this.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it's important to look at that. That's why I think people shouldn't diagnose everyone as narcissist.
Hmm.
And again, it's the behavior. It doesn't really matter where it's coming from. It's either they're
Yeah.
willing to work on it or they're not. The other thing
Yeah.
you mentioned is like the learned behaviors. And to me, I think there's a lot of reactive abuse that happens. So
Yeah.
when we are children and we have these parents, right, that gaslight us, well, we
Hmm.
learn that this is what you do in an argument. When someone tells you
Hmm.
their version of the truth, the first thing you do is you shut it down and you tell them that
Hmm.
that's not how it was because it's been done to you. Now, those
Yep.
people are not true narcissists, and maybe their
Hmm.
parents aren't either. It's
Hmm.
just like a learned coping mechanism or like a
Yep.
learned behavior. So I think it's like taking the time to take that stuff apart. You have
Hmm.
to understand that it's not all what it looks like to be. And I
Yeah.
think this is huge. Because
Yeah.
when we're in a certain dynamic, sometimes we pick up those things. I know I've done it. When you're with different partners, you learn how to fight the way the partner does, because that's
Yeah.
the only way that you can get through to them is you use their
Yep.
own medicine against them. And I've done
Yep.
it, and it's not my fighting style. And then I'll be in another relationship and I'm like, that, and that's not me. So like whoever makes me be
Yeah.
that person, I need to not be with them because that's not who I want to be. So I
Yeah.
think with age, you learn those things, but I think you just made very two important points when looking at
Yeah.
narcissism, and that is that it's not what it all seems to be, and you can't just look at behaviors and diagnose
hmm
everyone the same way.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love
And I think also what another thing to add to that, when we're looking at, toxic people or narcissists or however you want to look at that, with the really, we'll say less than good people,
it.
it's most everything is driven by power and control. And with all of the other dysfunctional, diagnosis or behaviors, all of those things, it's usually for love and connection.
Yeah,
I mean, it's most everything, it's all based on fear for everybody, because we're afraid of losing connection or not having connection or not having love or any of those things. But with narcissists specifically, it is fate, it is fear, it's based on fear, but they're afraid that if they don't have power and control, then they can't meet their needs.
yeah,
And it doesn't mean that it's right. It doesn't mean that it's okay. It's just it's more helpful for understanding, I think. Because yeah, they're trying to meet their needs in a way that uses and manipulates and abuses people. But they're trying to get their needs met. And so it's why one of the biggest things is if you're no longer meeting their needs, then they move on, because if they're not getting supply from you,
fresh
um,
supply.
yep, then they need to go find new supply. But with other people, with ADHD and codependency and the insecure attachment, we're looking for love and connection. And
Yeah,
so all of those they're still dysfunctional behaviors. They're still hurtful, harmful for the relationship, for other people. But they're looking for love and connection,
yeah,
and that's it's a kind of a key distinction there as well. Another thing and I don't know how true this is something that I heard recently, but I heard as far as narcissists getting diagnosed, the primary way that narcissists get diagnosed is they are court mandated for substance abuse or anger management or something like that. And so they are in therapy for that. And then through that, then they are actually diagnosed as a narcissist. And I don't know for sure any of this, and I'm not a counselor or any of that. So I don't diagnose anyway and know all the
yeah.
criteria. But that was an interesting thing to learn, because from my understanding, one of the criteria being diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder is that it's causing a problem in their life, and so they then go to therapy. And with most of those toxic people, it's not causing a problem in their life,
Because they're never
or at
the
least
problem.
yeah, or at least they don't think it's
Yeah,
causing
yeah,
a problem. They cause problems in everyone else's lives. So they couldn't be diagnosed with it. But anyway, interesting thought on
yeah.
all of it.
I heard the same thing, and a lot of times it's when they're arrested for domestic
Mm,
violence, for a crime, for
hmm
anything like that, they have to get a psych eval, and that's how they find out.
hmm
Because it's never that they willingly go and say it, hey, there's something wrong with me or whatever. So they have
Yeah,
to already
yeah,
be in the system for something
yep,
else, or have been arrested, or be mandated to go have
hmm
therapy for them to be
yep,
diagnosed. So like that tracks. That's pretty much all the
yeah,
research they have. So
yeah,
it's very limited. Um, but so you know that I work with men around domestic violence, and
hmm
that a lot of the times the way that men experience domestic violence is through that manipulation, that
hmm
emotional, psychological damage, coercion, and control. And abuse is
Hmm.
about control. Physical abuse is
Yep.
about controlling your body. Emotional, mental is about controlling your perspective, controlling
Hmm.
your view of the situation. It's
Hmm.
about controlling your consent,
Hmm.
financial control, and then controlling other people's perception of you and controlling your image. So
Yep.
everything is about control.
Yeah.
And sometimes it looks like it's very controlling, but sometimes the way it's
Hmm.
presented that I want to talk about is in
Yeah.
a very sweet and innocent way. And I have an example of
Yep.
that.
Okay.
That would be, you're dating someone or whatever, and then they say to you, I get really anxious when you're driving home. So like, can you either call me every time you're driving home from work, or like, can you
Hmm.
can you make sure you message me because then I'm not like I won't be able to sleep. So
Hmm.
you think to yourself, hey, like
Hmm.
A, they really care, right? They
Hmm.
care about my safety. B, you think maybe, they could be anxiously attached. Like maybe they need
Hmm.
that confirmation because they're an anxious person, right?
Hmm.
But sometimes there's like a bigger manipulation underneath, and that is for them
Hmm.
to get you to do the things that they want you to do. And it doesn't start off with, hey, bitch, text me when you get home. It starts off
Yep.
with, I am so worried about you and I care about you,
Yep.
which is how people
Yep.
don't understand that you get to a point where you've been doing everything they wanted you to do, and you wake up and you're like, what the fuck? But it was very slow and
Hmm.
it started off
Yeah.
very sweet. So tell
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's I think, in the, in the long-term relationship I was in, I don't think there was ever a time when it was said, no, you can't go hang out with your friends. You can't see your friends or anything of that sort. But it was always, I don't really feel like going out. I don't really feel comfortable with hanging out with them. I mean, you can go and it's like, yeah, I mean, you should go hang out, see your friends, any of those things. But it was always, there was always a little subtle, is it going to be something now that happens? And it wouldn't ever be anything major. There was no like blowouts with any of this. If it was always just super subtle, well, I'm not feeling connected to you. So of course we can't have sex, or we can't, because I haven't been around you. I mean, so it's all of these little control manipulation things that are super, super subtle, and there's no win for it, because one of the things that was said a lot was, I just don't feel connected to you, and we don't spend time together. So I tried then to, okay, well, I'll come hang out. And why can't I sit next to you on the couch when we watch TV so we can, oh, well, that's where the dog sits. Little things like that. So it's like, I'm trying here to show up so that we can connect. And then there's other little subtle things, but you're still using the reason that we're not connected. So I don't feel connected to you. So we can't, there's not sex or intimacy, or but when I'm trying to fix the problem, the problem that is
Mhm.
that is told, then there's always roadblocks of why I can't actually do anything to fix the problem. I think one of the other things, talking about because I think there is sometimes physical abuse with men as well,
There is.
and yeah, but I think a lot of times it's much more subtle.
Mhm.
And I don't remember, it could have even been you that I was talking to, I don't know. When I said, it's like, I didn't really have, there wasn't really much of anything. I mean, I got pushed into a wall at one point. I got, pushed into a door, had some water bottles and different things thrown at me.
Throwing things
um,
is a big thing for men. Being
yeah,
someone throwing
yeah.
things.
Yep. And it was, I had to think back, and I was like, oh, I mean, it wasn't like there was a lot of those things, but there were just enough of those little things, which then you don't feel safe. Am I going to have something thrown at me? But it's not enough to, it's not like them really necessarily laying hands. I mean, what we see in the other way, I mean, and I'm not saying that that doesn't happen,
Mhm.
but I think a lot of times when we look at the abuse, it's like, the guy grabs the girl, or pushes her up, holds her up against the wall or something, something like that, which is much more, we see this concrete
It's
thing that
aggressive.
they really, yeah,
Yeah.
really aggressive, get your hands on her. And I think a lot of the time with men, women are not, they're not as direct about that. So yeah, it might be like, pushing you just kind of, but it's not this like forceful run you up into the wall. It's just push you off balance. Throw something at you. Just, yeah, something much more, it's like, was that abuse? We're kind of questioning, was that abuse? Was this just, you know, was this just a little thing? I don't understand. And but then we don't feel safe because
But
that's
what you just said
ultimately,
is literally the essence of the problem. When you
yeah.
said, like, is it enough? And that you question it.
Uh-huh.
It's
Oh
because
yeah.
women have been told clearly what is
Hmm.
physical abuse and what it's not. And for women,
Yeah.
it doesn't also start as a punch in the face. It starts as a
Hmm.
push and you fall and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, that was accidental.
Yep.
I don't realize my strength. I don't realize my size, whatever. So it's the
Hmm.
same thing for us. It's just like we're being taught that
Hmm.
no physical violence is okay.
Yeah.
You have been raised you've watched women on TV and in different
Hmm.
places slap men across the face. And
Hmm.
I was talking about this in a podcast last week. When a woman slaps a man in the face in a bar, no one bats an eye. No one goes up
Hmm.
to him and says, "Hey, like, are you okay?" Everyone assumes he did or said something that was
Yep.
disrespectful and she had every right to hit him. I'm
Yep.
sorry. Unless he assaulted her, if he said something, I don't care how disrespectful it is, it doesn't mean he should get hit in the face.
Yep.
But because it's a woman, it's acceptable. So I think
Hmm.
that and the whole PMS, hormones, perimenopause, menopause,
Hmm.
women being full of rage and all this stuff, I think it has normalized and
Yeah.
desensitized men to what
Yep.
abuse is. And so when you said like, "Oh, is it enough?" Yeah, you're being fucking pushed. That's enough. Like,
Yeah.
why is there no voice in
Yeah.
men's heads that
Yeah.
said that's not okay? Because you're like, I didn't get stabbed, I didn't get hit, right?
Hmm.
But then
Hmm.
if she when she because it's always right, there's an escalation.
Yeah.
So pushing,
Yep.
you stay, you normalize
Yep.
it, it escalates. So then it's a punch in
Yep.
the face or a slap in the face. But the first one's going to be, well, you made me so mad because you said this. If you hadn't said this, I wouldn't
Hmm.
have said that. So
Hmm.
that's how they
Yep.
normalize it. And then you wake
Yeah.
up and you're like, what's going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
But
You're
I
like, oh,
hear
it
men
was,
saying this all the time. It wasn't enough.
yeah.
And she is healing. She's going through a
Hmm.
hard time. She has
Yep.
been with men that have hurt her. And somehow that makes it okay for you guys to take their shit. And
Yeah.
when she says, like, oh, I don't feel connected to you. So she's intelligent enough to use words that you, being a
Hmm.
caring human, you're like, well, how could I reject someone that wants connection with me? So then
Hmm.
you go above and beyond
Yep.
because she's using nice words. She's not saying, hey, you don't go out, like you go out with your friends and you don't care about me. She's not, it's not that
Yeah.
obvious. It's like,
Yep.
I feel so disconnected to you. So it's like
Hmm.
it's your job now to bring this connection to me. And
Yeah.
that's
Yeah. And I
that's
might, and I'm,
tough.
yeah. And I might reject all of it because you didn't do it in the right way, which
Yes.
is which is another, that's another one of those subtle abuse things, which, they ask you to do something, and okay, yeah, I can handle that. And so
Mhm.
then you go do that, and then it's like, well, I wish you wouldn't have done it that way. I mean, or you should do it this other way. That's not the way that I would have done that. I mean, and there's such little subtle things, um, but it's like basically comes back to, you're always going to be wrong.
Yeah.
No matter what it is, you're always going to be wrong. And that's a really hard one to then untrain ourselves. I'm not always right. I might do things very different than all of these other people, and that's okay. I mean, if I still get whatever done and without hurting anyone or causing
Yeah.
issues, I accomplished the task. But it will come back a lot of times where you didn't do that the right way, or I wish you wouldn't have done it that way. Lots of just little things like that. Then we feel bad. We feel bad that we did it, but also that, it's there's no win. I mean, which is ultimately what all of these relationships come down to, is there's no win. Like it's all losing.
Yeah. And your self-worth starts to like deteriorate because you're
Hmm.
like, I'm not good enough again. Like,
Yep.
can I just get things right?
Yeah.
Like, why
Yeah.
can't I just do it properly? And one of the best ways to know if it's toxic, it's like the goalposts. When someone asks you to do something,
Oh.
even if they give you
Yep.
feedback, right? It's like,
Yep.
hey, thank you for doing the dishes, but they were still stained. I appreciate you. Just, next time soak them for a little bit and it'll work better, right? But you
Hmm.
leave it, right?
Hmm.
You can give
Yeah.
some feedback. So you don't want people to think that like you can give feedback when someone's trying to
Yeah.
help you. But it's the
Yeah.
fact that the goalpost gets moved every
Yep.
single time and you never win. They never
Yep.
say thank you, I love you, I appreciate you, and just leave it at that.
Yeah.
There's always a stab that comes with it that makes you
Yep.
feel bad about yourself.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely.
Wow. I think we're gonna record the rest next time because I want to dive
Okay.
deep into like reactive abuse, and I want to talk about the making everything about yourself, and I have a few other
Hmm.
topics in mind. But
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about the fact that I think people who are on the healing journey, and
Hmm.
I think people who are highly accountable are
Hmm.
very much more an easy target in that way, in the accountability way,
Yep.
for people who have narcissistic traits. Because
Hmm.
when they say, when they know the right words to use to manipulate
Yep.
you, and they know the right terminology, and they know, all of
Hmm.
that, and they say things like, I just don't feel connected to you and I miss you,
Hmm.
or they
Yeah.
say something else that sounds, very compassionate and it sounds very self-aware, you're like, I'm highly accountable. What's my pattern? What am I doing wrong? And the first person you
Hmm.
look at is yourself.
Yep.
They continuously, with feedback and with the right words, make everything about you. And because you're healing and you're
Yeah.
accountable, you're like, fuck, like I need more healing. I guess I'm
I
not there
can't.
yet.
Yep.
Have
Can't
you
get it right.
experienced the same and heard about
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. Just never being enough. And there were years of my life that I thought that I didn't have any empathy or compassion for anyone else. And my part of the responsibility in this is I allowed myself to take on that identity. The other part is I got programmed by that. She programmed me in so many ways, and saw a little thread that she could pull at and then just reinforce and reemphasize, and you shouldn't have done that, or you shouldn't have done that way. You should be more empathetic, more compassionate. And yeah, and so I was always, I just continuously worked on myself because gosh, I'm just, and that was what really broke it was I was talking to a friend that I had known for, I've known for a long decades, and I said, I don't know what to do. I'm I'm ruining my family's life, and I think it's because I don't have any empathy or compassion. And he said, well, I call fucking bullshit on that. And that hit me so hard because it just like shattered so much of the reality that I was living in, which it took someone like that to say something like that to me, because that was a ingrained belief that I had about myself. And he was like, no, you're like one of the most empathetic, compassionate people that I know. And so, but it's those little things like that, that I mean, really, it's large scale gaslighting, I guess, in a lot of ways, because because we question our identity and what we're doing, and if we're enough, and we're not doing enough, and it's all because, yeah, the goalpost is always being moved in every single part, and it's always our fault. And they can articulate very well how it is our fault.
And they can be very convincing.
Yeah, yeah,
I love that it took a friend to shatter the the story she had been telling you about yourself,
yeah,
and like this label that you had put on yourself, and it took him to shatter it. And I just thought about all the people that haven't had that
yeah,
from someone, or that have been already isolated and there's just no one there. Because it was
yeah.
just like he changed your perception, and I'm guessing is that you started to look at things differently from that point on.
Yeah, yeah, I think that was, I don't remember exactly when that was, but that was right like towards the very end. It was about 14 years in that relationship, and that was probably within the last 6 or 8 months. And that was when because then I went, wait a minute, if maybe I'm not the only problem in this relationship. And I viewed myself as I'm the only problem here. It's
Yeah.
very clearly articulated to
She's
me.
telling me her needs, she's doing all the right things.
Yeah,
I just
yeah,
can't get it straight.
yeah. I just can't get it right no matter what. And that was really when I started questioning. And I was fortunate too, because I've been studying personal development for over 20 years. I mean, now how I missed the narcissist part in all of
Right.
those, yeah.
Right.
But I was like, okay, well, I don't know what to do here, but I know what to do. I'll just go and research and figure out if I'm not the only problem here in this relationship, then what actually is going on?
Yeah.
And that was what led me to the path of learning about narcissism. And
And
yeah.
there's nothing wrong with you, because I think you are highly compassionate and very empathetic, and you have a high sense of accountability. And I think that is exactly why you miss those signs, because
Hmm.
you just want to improve yourself and you want to be
Yeah,
the best that you can be, and not tell other people how to be. And I think that's
yeah,
beautiful. And it's just this person took advantage of these beautiful
yep,
traits that you have.
yep,
And so like I'm very aware that this is something that we are susceptible to, because I'm also like,
yeah,
why was I triggered? Why did I do this? And I always look at
yep,
myself first, and then I'm like,
yep.
is it always? Is it always though? So we have to be
Yeah,
careful. But
yeah.
what would you say? I'm going to share mine, but what would you say to someone that's listening to this and they're like, am I in it? Am I the problem? Are they the problem? What do you think is the number one way for anyone to know that they are in a toxic relationship that is not good for them? What's the number one like warning sign, red flag?
I think the biggest thing is if you feel like there's a problem and has been a problem in your relationship, and you've tried to have the conversations, you've tried to correct your behavior, you've tried to figure out what's going on, and nothing really seems to change at all. And it just seems like the same thing over and over again. And nothing gets better, nothing really gets resolved. And but there's always still continuously, little problems or big problem, but there's problems either way. And they kind of get all swept under the rug, but nothing ever really gets fixed or healed or worked through. I mean, having the full complete conversation. If that's happening, there were many times when I went to go talk to her, and I would leave every single one of those conversations like, there's a problem here, and I don't like this, we need to work through this. And I would leave every single one of those confused as to why everything was my fault, but it was very clearly articulated why everything was my fault. And so if it's any that sort of situation where you just can't seem to make any headway, any growth, any healing, it's always a problem and there's never any resolution or solution to any of it. That is a toxic relationship.
That's a good one. And it's very similar to mine. Mine is no matter what age you are, if at any point you are questioning your memory, you are questioning if you really said what you said, you are questioning if they really did what they did, you
Mm-hmm.
are questioning your own reality, you are
Mm-hmm.
confused about your feelings, and you're like, I feel like this is wrong, but the way it looks, they're
Mm-hmm.
telling me it's right. Or the other way around. I feel like this is the right thing to
Mm-hmm.
do, but they're telling me that this is wrong and this is toxic.
Mm-hmm.
If you are like in this state of confusion and you've been, okay for 30, 40, 50 years, you know who you are, you know how you feel, you know what you think, you know what you
Mm-hmm.
like, all these things. And all of a sudden you are just fucking confused about
Mm-hmm.
everything. And you don't know who you are,
Mm-hmm.
and you're questioning yourself, you're questioning your own reality, you're questioning your memory, you're questioning
Mm-hmm.
events, you're just questioning your own perception on everything. I think that's a huge
Yeah.
put your hand up and get the
Yeah.
fuck out of there.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah, I agree. Definitely.
thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom. I love your approach to this. It's just very holistic. It's not very victim based, and that like
Mm-hmm.
really resonates with me and my approach with my clients. And just
Mm-hmm.
thank you for sharing yourself and your story and your wisdom. And I can't wait to talk about this some more.
Awesome. Thanks again.
Thank you.